Man City 2, Arsenal 2. That was a far more intriguing game than the match last year at the Etihad. That was a boring 0-0 draw, and this certainly wasn't. And City started expertly well, didn't they?
Yeah, it's fantastic, and they scored within the first 10 minutes. Erling Haaland getting the goal, but I do think that's down to poor defending by Arsenal, because as we saw,
100%.
Gabriel was nowhere near tight enough to Haaland, and he was too deep. And I don't know if that's because of a poor communication between him and Saliba, but he was at fault, and that's why Arsenal went 1-0 down.
Well, Savinho turned brilliantly, got on his left foot, slotted Haaland through, and I was saying to you while I was watching, I was thinking, go on, just play him through now, because he had so much time to play Haaland through because of the gap between Saliba and Gabriel. And Gabriel sat that few yards deeper, playing Haaland onside, and poor defending, which we don't usually associate with Arsenal at the moment.
Well, no, exactly. And we know Erling Haaland's strength is running behind, and they literally, catered exactly towards that, and that's why he got his goal. Quality finish as well from him, as we saw, one-on-one. Never in doubt that he's going to score as well.
No,
so
a brilliant finish, and it was unique because you usually see him place it around the keeper, and this one was just almost like a toe poke almost just into that corner.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very clever finish, but from an Arsenal perspective, you can't be giving Haaland time like that and space like that to run into.
City started much better than they did against Inter Milan. They were picking up the ball well in the pockets, constantly causing issues for Arsenal, especially on Arsenal's left-hand side. City's right, Bernardo Silva, Savinho, Haaland, Gundogan, they were all getting involved, linking up. The intricate play was brilliant. And like you said, City started the game off well. But that didn't last too long, did it?
No, not after. Well, Rodri got injured, and we saw Arsenal went and got a goal
literally 1 minute later.
Yeah.
And although Arsenal's goal wasn't directly due to Rodri's absence, him not being in that midfield did cost him, I think, to an extent, because when the ball was cut back to Calafiori, who closed him down? Absolutely no one. And Rodri, if he was in that position, he would have read the danger, closed down Calafiori, and maybe wouldn't have been able to take that shot on.
Yeah, and Walker's also part to blame, a lot of people say, but I don't think he's got as part to blame as most people think, because a lot of people think he's at fault for the goal, but I actually don't think he did too much wrong. Yeah, he probably could have got back into his position quicker after moaning about where the free kick was taken from, but I think he kind of did his job in stopping Martinelli. But yeah, as you said, no one was marking Calafiori, got a free shot on goal, and what a screamer that was. Yeah,
that goal, only goes in maybe once out of 10 shots, so you can't really blame City too much, because most of the time that goes over the bar. But yeah, a few little areas City could have maybe performed better in during that phase of play, and maybe that goal would have been prevented. But Kyle Walker was poor defensively for Gabriel's goal. He lost his marker, and Gabriel is a brilliant defender from set-piece scenarios, both defensively and offensively.
Yeah.
How many times do we see him get his head on things from corners?
Well, we saw him get loads of goals from corners, actually, haven't we?
Yeah.
Last week against Tottenham, and now today against City in pivotal games as well. So you have to give credit to him, but Walker should be doing a lot better. He lost his man within the first second, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as Gabriel started running,
that burst of pace that the Brazilian showed, I've never seen him move so quick.
He was so quick.
How on earth? He must have Usain Bolt's running shoes on.
Especially with someone like Walker marking him as well. But I think that's definitely very poor defending from Walker, because the way he lost his man within the first second of the corner being taken,
it wasn't like he was buddied off the ball. It was just that quick burst of pace, lack of concentration from Walker, and he was there to head the ball home.
And when Gabriel heads it in, Walker's nowhere to be seen.
No.
And that is shocking defending. So yeah, he might not have been at fault for the first goal, but that second goal is definitely his fault. I do think Henderson does have his part to blame.
Yeah.
I think he needs to be a bit more commanding in his box, because the ball, where Gabriel headed it, it was almost by his goal, you know what I mean? So he needs to be stronger there. I know they checked for a foul, but I don't think it was a foul.
No, me neither.
And you just got to be stronger there. But fair play to Gabriel, quality goal, and even though he made a mistake earlier, he certainly made up for it there.
Yeah, certainly. But then again, just like the first goal, it is just brilliance from Arsenal, and set pieces are their speciality. No team in the Premier League scores more goals directly from corners, or I think from set pieces, as Arsenal, because literally they're a team for the giants, first and foremost, and to their tactics, whether they're running in from the edge of the box, running in from the back post, cause persistent and constant issues to whoever they play, don't they?
Yeah, for sure. And moving on to arguably the most pivotal moment in the game, Trossard sending off, where he first got a yellow for pulling the shot of a City player, and the second yellow was obviously a little push in the back of Bernardo Silva and a kick a ball away. I think personally 2 yellow cards and a sending off is fair, but what do you think, Zach?
I think it's justifiable. You can't really complain. Yes, people may say, how can we send players off for booting the ball away? But we've got to clamp down upon this. If players are watching at home and going, Declan Rice the other week got sent off a second yellow for kicking the ball away, Trossard did this week, we're not going to do this. We're not going to kick the ball away. It's not worth the risk of getting ourselves sent off as doing something so stupid and reckless. And yeah, rightly so. Trossard can't complain. Putting on the shirt, that's a yellow card. Elbowing Bernardo Silva in the back, that's questionably a yellow card, but definitely a foul. And then booting the ball away, it's definitely deserved to be sent off the pitch.
It's certainly silly from him, and as you said, Declan Rice did it last week, so they should be learning from it. You think they'd look at that and think,
especially
right,
the Arsenal camp themselves.
Exactly, like all clubs should be learning from that, let alone Arsenal themselves who it's happened to, and yet they haven't learned from their mistakes, and it is poor from Trossard. He shouldn't be doing that, and if he wasn't sent off, then we'd be complaining about consistency again with the refs, so I think it's a fair decision to send him off.
And this may seem outrageous, but that sending off for Arsenal actually did bode well for them in many ways, because it gave them the incentive to sit in and sit deep, and goal, camp in their own half and protect that lead without the media and fans picking in and going, oh, Arteta's a defensive manager. He goes 2-1 up against City with 11 players and he still sits in and City will pepper them. So it gave him the extra incentive of, I can do this without people really picking at me because it's generally the right thing to do. Camping in your own half and protecting that lead with 10 men. And at half-time, we saw Arteta take off Saka and bring on Ben White to protect the lead. But was that the right decision from Arteta to take off his star man, his main goal scorer?
Well, it's certainly an interesting choice because obviously Saka's their main man. But that's where we saw Arsenal change to a back 5, back 6 at times with Martinelli sitting in. And to be fair, that did nullify Haaland a lot because as we saw in the first half, he got joy with that first goal. But in the second half, he's almost nowhere to be seen. That's the thing, because there's no space in behind. And because they had 3 defenders in the box, crosses were just basically swept up all day because that's what Arsenal wanted. They either wanted City to shoot from the edge of the box or cross it in because that's why they had it 3 at the back there. They could easily clear it away. And Haaland had no room to sort of do anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, he could not do anything.
He was almost non-existent in that second half.
Exactly.
I think at one point in the 70th minute, he only made 6 attempts of the ball, 6 passes of the ball throughout the whole 90 minutes. And most of them probably came in the first half because in that second half, he had very few chances.
Well, as we know, City were missing a few players and Haaland is sort of their main man and he was halted in that second half. So you've got to give credit to Arsenal. And I do think, despite them conceding last minute, putting on Ben White for Saka, as interesting as it might look at the time, I do think looking back at it, it probably was the right decision.
I agree. Although, in another world, if De Bruyne and Rodri were playing, who are City's 2 best players, maybe sitting too deep wouldn't have been the best idea because City, they were playing the ball around the edge of the area and Arsenal were happy for them to play the ball around the edge of the box because they knew the likes of Kovacic, Diaz, Akanji, they're not ball strikers from the edge of the area. But if you had De Bruyne or Rodri sort of in that position, we all know how good they are from that sort of range. So if maybe Arsenal did sit deep with those 2 on the pitch and it landed at Rodri or De Bruyne's feet from the edge of the area and they scored, everyone would be going, Arsenal, why are you sitting so deep? You should be more proactive and be able to press those midfielders and centre-backs with the ball. But like we said, because Rodri and De Bruyne didn't play, they weren't faced.
Well, exactly. And I also think Arsenal sitting back as well with the 5 at the back and 6 at the back at times, like I was saying, it allowed their midfield to be compact, which meant City couldn't really do much in those central areas when they're trying to look for, to create things. They couldn't do much at all because obviously you had the likes of Havertz and Rice sitting in there alongside the other midfielders they have in there, stopping City from playing in those central areas, which is what we saw earlier. You know, they're picking up space in the pockets, they're playing around the pockets, but they couldn't do any of that in the second half because Arsenal were sat so far deep in the second half, and it halted a lot of City's sort of main threats that they had in the first half. So I think Arteta did, even though it looked like he just parked the bus.
It was the right decision.
Tactically it looked like the smart
decision.
And
although it allowed the City players to take shots on the edge of the box, as we saw with Diaz, he's not capable.
Exactly.
Whereas if De Bruyne and Rodri were in those situations, the result could have been very different.
Definitely.
But Pep's a genius, isn't he? Bringing on John Stones in the 78th minute for Kyle Walker, and that may seem well and obvious because John Stones scored the equaliser, but there is a deeper meaning to it, isn't there?
For sure, and as we saw, he got brought on for Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker isn't the most proficient on the front foot. We saw that with the likes of Diaz and Kyle Walker getting the ball on the edge of the box. They weren't really doing much with it. We saw Diaz put a shot really, really high and wide. Kyle Walker wasn't doing exactly. Kyle Walker wasn't doing anything with the ball either. So bringing on Stones, who's obviously much better on the front foot, was a smart decision, and that allowed Akanji to go out to the right hand side and play more as a right back, which meant City kind of had almost no defence in a way. But it made sense because Arsenal were adding extra defenders. So what Pep thought is, I'll just add extra attackers.
Extra bodies to be attackers in the box.
Exactly, yeah. Because obviously John Stones isn't an attacker, but as we know, he gets forward and he helps out the attack.
On the ball. And also, what I think another key thing that was a brilliant decision from Pep to bring him on was that John Stones is so good in tight areas. Kyle Walker's not. Kyle Walker loves space. If he does have the ball at his feet, where he's best at was running the ball into space. Whereas John Stones, where he's best at is when he's in those little pockets and he can play the little 1-2s. And because Arsenal were so camped within their own half, the spaces were tight, John Stones was able to play those 1-2s in and around the box, whilst also having their aerial presence, because obviously Arsenal had about 58 6-foot plus defenders in the box. So then if City did put a ball into the box, they'd have an extra man who is of decent height to get on the end of it. And it worked well with the goal. Despite the fact it wasn't his head, he was being a nuisance within the area and ultimately scored the goal in, what was it, the 90 plus 7th or 98th minute? Snatched the 3 points away from Arsenal. And as a Tottenham fan, I bet you loved that, didn't you?
Oh, I was loving it. And I was celebrating because I do not want Arsenal in the league, and John Stones has saved my day.
And City's dominance was evident with the stats. They had 78% of the ball, 33 shots on goal, although they only had an XG of 2.13, which does show you how Arsenal were brilliant defensively. They were limiting City to very few clear-cut and good quality chances. They had 11 shots on target, City, though, so they still managed to break Arsenal down at times. 8 corners, 3 yellow cards and 0 red cards. And Arsenal obviously only had 22% of the ball, and an expected goals of 0.65 from only 3 shots on target.
Mental,
as we know, 2 of them were the goals.
So
if Arsenal did manage to hold on, it'd be one of the best defensive displays in however long against City at the Etihad, holding on with 10 men. But unfortunately, it wasn't for them.
And with all that being said, what does the future hold after this match for both clubs, starting with Man City, Zach?
Well, it's a brilliant result for City. They weren't at their best today, yet they still managed to get a point out of this against their title rival, and they sit pretty at the top of the table on 13 points. And as we know, when City are top of the table, they very rarely throw that lead away. So despite the fact it's 5 games in, it's a brilliant position for them to be in. What are your thoughts on Arsenal, though? Do you really think they can go the way this season? They currently sit 4th in the table on 11 points. What are your thoughts on them so far?
Well, I thought the performance was actually very good.
Yes.
You know, they sat back and they defended very well, and I think they should take a lot of confidence from that.
100%.
Thinking they went not necessarily toe-to-toe, but they managed to make Man City certainly work for just a draw.
Yes, 100%.
100% take a lot of confidence from that. Obviously, I know the way they conceded, well, last minute.
I would take a lot of wind. Take the wind out their sails.
Yeah, definitely.
Certainly.
And going into next week, that's going to be a huge blow, and we'll have to see how they bounce back from it. And I think it's going to definitely show what their mentality is.
Yeah,
it's gonna
the real character of this Arsenal team.
It's gonna test their mentality. We're really gonna see what they're made of, because the way they conceded in such a massive game, if they do go and lose the next week and they do go on a bad bit of form, it goes to show their mentality is a little bit fragile. But if they go and then pick up good results and they get on good form, it goes to show that they could then go and win the league.
But obviously this result, although it's a good result for Arsenal at the moment, going away to the Etihad and getting a point at the Etihad is good for any team. Come the end of the season, it could be tight. City could be 1 point ahead and win the title. And then everyone will look back to that moment where they could have just held out for 1 more minute or even 10 more seconds.
That one moment.
Yeah, that one moment
scoring,
which costed them the title. So yeah, you never know. It's all if buts and maybes. But it's a really good result for Arsenal at the moment, and not a bad one for City. I think both sides will be happy with a point, considering what went on during the game.
Absolutely.
But before we go, what are your thoughts on the match today? Did you think Arsenal played well? Did you think City played well? And who do you think will win the title of the season? Would it be one of these two sides, or could it be someone else?